Why, hello! 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 You crazy people. I'm trying to get on with my life here. I'm trying to do a little bit of this, a little bit of that, trying to enjoy some downtime. And yet people keep asking me, hey, why don't you do another GregsynthVlog episode? It's been months. It's been a long time. It's been too long. I got questions to ask. Bullet points, parentheses, asterisks, you name it. Absolutely crazy. So finally, I got a little pissed off, and I'm like, you know what? Let me make a video of sorts. Announcing that I'll be returning to doing the GregsynthVlogs. Hello, everybody. Now, I couldn't decide what hat to wear, so I decided to wear all of them at once. Maybe you guys can pick your favorite out of all of them. I got 6, 7 hats right in my head. I got 7 pages of questions right here. That's right, 7 of them. Coming from all sorts of areas, whether it be my email or Google or YouTube or Reddit, Discord, Facebook, you name it. It's like everyone just threw all these questions at me, and it's like, how am I supposed to do this? It's like I was nervous. I didn't know what I was doing. But then I had a good night's sleep, about 3 hours. And I got to thinking, you know what, you can do this. Just make like a really long video that's an hour and a half or 2 hours long or something, and just answer them all. So, that's the final plan. It's time to do this episode of GregsynthVlog, and it's going to be a fun one because I was looking through these questions, and they range from somewhat basic, simple, to the point, common questions, to ridiculous questions, to over-the-top questions, to questions that have nothing to do with Queen, which is fine, and other questions I scratch my head and wonder if the person is insane. But you know what? That's absolutely okay. So, armed with my rapid-fire motor mouth, to all my hats, to the leather jacket, to my calico sister cats. One's over there and one is over there. Maybe they'll do some sort of cameo appearance in this video. I know the calico sisters have some fans. Maybe before I start, I can get them to actually come on the camera here. So if I can give them some treats here. Hey, come on, sisters. Oh, here they are. Oh, there's Jupiter and there's Holly. Hi, kitties. Hi, kitties. Hi, kitties. Oh. Give you a couple treats on camera here. We have a little bit of a, fan club for these cats, especially Ancient Crab, who's tormenting me with messages like, I want to see the sisters. But here we go. Maybe this will make her happy. Here you go, kitties. Come here. Come here. Come here. Look at that. See, look at them all right here. I'll put the treats right down here. There we go. You can probably hear them talk. But there we go. There's the Calico Sisters, and Holly's, big fat tail is blocking my face in the camera. So there we go. You got to deal with that for as long as she just stands there. So there we go. So, yep, there's the cameo appearance by the Calico Sisters. Jupiter's munching on all the treats. And, it's going to be a fun episode to do because now that we got the cameo for the cats out of the way, come on. I can't see the camera. Oh, well. I'm just going to soldier on. So, in addition to the Calico Sisters and treats, brought my medicine with me because I'm going to need it after reviewing these questions. Okay, so now that we got that out of the way, let's get into it. Actually, before the questions, a couple little things people have asked me a lot in the comments. When's the debate coming out and everything? Well, there is a date. It's going to be on the anniversary of the Chicago 77 gig on the News of the World tour. So it'll be coming out in just a couple of days. And So, it's going to be right around the corner. It was a fun debate. There was tons of great, moments, a lot of comedic moments, including a power failure at my place. It was all caught on audio, and hopefully, you guys will get some laughs out of that. It was a really fun debate, and up there with some of the best of them, because we had a really solid lineup of people that really love talking about the live stuff, which made me very, very happy, and I was very pleased with the way it turned out, in spite of the fact that I lost power at my place and it delayed it for a few minutes. But it was fun, and thank you to everybody who participated. So in the next, I don't know, few days, about a week or so, I should get it up there, and I hope you guys like it. So there it is on the debate. The other question people have asked me a lot is about the blooper videos. To make a long story very short, originally I was gonna put my old blooper videos up on YouTube, as a throwback, because I made those 7, 8 years ago or so, and kind of was like a throwback to the old school stuff. And I was gonna let it sit up there, and then soon after I was gonna put the brand new 4.5 hour blooper video up there, which absolutely crazy. But as I was in the process of getting the new video ready to put up, the old blooper videos I had put all three on the same video. So yeah, there was like a 40-minute long video or something to that effect. But Believe Music apparently didn't like the blooper video, so they blocked it worldwide. So my first thought was, well, I'm gonna dispute that and everything and get it back onto YouTube. But then I thought about it, and I'm like, okay, at this time it was before the soundtrack, and it was before the the movie, so maybe they were doing that, just in case. I don't know. But I'm like, you know what? I'm going to wait till after the movie and the soundtrack have been out for a while, and then I'll re-upload that. So, it's getting to the point where it may be a good time for me to revisit that and put them back up onto YouTube. And that includes the new blooper video. I just didn't want to start challenging disputes and stuff right around that time in case there was issues with, say, like the movie or the soundtrack. And I'm not in any mood to get like strikes on the channel or any of that bullshit. So I was kind of playing it safe and hanging back a bit. And plus, with some of the controversial blockings and video removals that have been going on lately in the past few months. I'm like, you know what? Let me just hang back. I can't risk the channel, and I don't want to piss off the thousands of subscribers. So, I just had to play my cards right. But hopefully, I'll get those up very soon. And also with the Live Aid show, I voluntarily took my Live Aid uploads down. They will be back up. I was doing that because, again, stuff was getting not muted, but blocked worldwide, or blocked in every country except Canada and the United States. And I've seen some other Live Aid videos get taken down. So I voluntarily deleted those off of my YouTube, just, because of the movie and the soundtrack stuff. But I should be putting those back up very, very soon. So hopefully, everything's cool. But in the meantime, they'll stay off YouTube until, further down the road. So that stuff is out of the way. So it's time to get into the questions. And I got 7 pages worth. So 7 pages worth. I have all the drinks in the world right around there because I'm probably going to need that so I don't, talk myself, hoarse or anything. But so here we go. And as a disclaimer, if I butcher your username or your name, because I wrote what I was given right on these sheets of paper, so I apologize in advance. So if I do screw your name up, please correct me down in the comments, or like write down or type down how to pronounce it so I don't screw it up in the future, because I hate screwing up people's names. So here we go. First question is from Enzo Estrada, and he asks quite a few questions. And we'll start with the best. There's the best version of Sure Heart Attack. Well, Sure Heart Attack is a very fun song live, very energetic, and basically as long as Freddie has a stable voice and is not like wavering and being silly with the harmonizer, pretty much any version can qualify. I was recently listening to the Frankfurt 1980 version of Sheer Heart Attack, and that's a very highly energetic version. It's a fun performance, and there's that famous or infamous audience member that likes to aid the performance, so it's a very good version. And then another version I was listening to recently was from First Newcastle '79, which is very, very solid as well. And also Hammersmith and Paris '79 are great because you got the video to go along with that. You could see Freddie being destructive on stage. So yeah, the best versions are basically anyone with a stable voice and has that high energy. And there are a lot of great versions. The best version of Love of My Life. Well, Love of My Life, there's a couple different variations on it. There are the versions where Freddie sings the whole song, such as the News of the World Tour versions and then Montreal '81. And then there are versions where the crowd takes over and he does very little singing, like stadium shows of '86. Some of the amazing audiences from like Leiden and Rotterdam, in Brussels, stuff like that. So, and then you have the versions like from the Crazy Tour, which has, you know, some different phrasing and some powerful singing by Freddie, and then intimate atmospheres. So, for the best versions of Love of My Life, it really comes down to, it starts to get into more of like a subjective territory, especially when you have different variations of the song. But to answer that question the best I can, if I were to split it into different categories, say if Freddie sings the whole song with no audience, there's one I like is Montreal '81. That's a nice one. Some really awesome ones are from the News of the World Tour, like the Detroit '77 version is awesome. Has a really pristine, nice Freddie vocal on it, where he glides, and it's just a nice tone. You can pretty much go, with any of them from the era, but the Detroit one sticks out in a very positive way, partly because I'm, from Michigan, so there's a little bit of bias there, but also because the quality is very good on that recording, so you can just really hear how great it sounds. And if you want maybe a little bit tighter musically with Brian, the Inglewood version at the end of the year is also great. And for Love My Life with the crowd participation, some really epic ones. Hello, Holly. Holly wants to win. Hey. So, yeah, she probably wants to give her view on the song, but as I'm scratching her back because she's purring right now, some really good ones with the audience participation would be like Rock in Rio, Brussels '80, Leiden '80. Anything with Leiden is going to be guaranteed to be like the best for audience participation. And also, and that kind of comes down to your favorite there. And then, shout out to the Crazy Tour ones where you have intimate atmosphere, and then Freddie having that powerful, confident voice. The "I Still Love You" bit. That's always nice to hear. But Love of My Life, it's kind of like a subjective part because, hey, as long as you have either great audience participation and or solid Freddie, all the versions are in the running. A recent one I listened to was actually Munich '82 from the new tape, and it's awesome. And thank you, Peter, for that. But yeah, that's got some great phrasing on it, and I love that version. And then the last the last question. Actually, before we continue, take a look what I'm dealing with. Hi. Holly. Look at that. What a crazy cat. So I think she's probably just going to sit on my lap the whole time, which is great. But as far as the last question is concerned, favorite Freddie performance with Queen, except the Crazy Tour and Live Aid. Yeah, I had to put that in there so I wouldn't go right to those eras. Thank you for making me think. But yeah, there are some performances that I go to all the time outside of those two eras, which I think are absolutely phenomenal, and some of my all-time favorite Freddie performances. One being "See What a Fool I've Been" from the Champions video shoot from '77, where Freddie just absolutely sings the shit out of the song. Very Robert Plant-esque in spots, some great belts, and he just owns that song. It's definitely one of my favorite performances by him. I can't say no more about that because you just have to hear that performance. Definitely recommend it. And, people like to put that in their top 5, top 10s, and I don't disagree. I think it deserves all the praise in the world. Um, Also, I love hearing, "You Take My Breath Away" from Edinburgh '76 and Hyde Park, with the lovely falsetto. I always love that. And then when we get into the '80s, some of my favorite '80s performances, I really love hearing the "Somebody to Love" performances from the early '80s because of like the way Freddie would just phrase the song, and like he just turns that song into like a soulful vocal acrobatics, very creative, and you know a lot of great versions from like '81, and then there's a handful of these Hot Space Tour versions, especially at the end of the Euro, like which are absolutely top notch. And those are some of my favorite performances that he's done. And then another nominee I'll just throw in there just because I'm feeling generous towards the Magic Tour is I love to hear the One Vision from the Second Leiden. Absolutely amazing performance, and Freddie just sounds absolutely beastly. I think it might have been the power of the mustache combined with his Magic Tour outfit. So that's all I can say about that. Thank you for those questions. And then Awesome Gamer asked me, what's your most favorite and or least favorite Queen bootleg, and for what reasons? Quality, performance, etc. Um, let's see. Favorite bootleg. My favorite. Yeah, and Holly wants to purr some more. I think she's probably just gonna, you know, sit on my lap the whole time I'm doing this, which is fine. But my favorite bootleg would be, I want to say, it's going to be a little bit of a cliche pick, but I want to say Hammersmith '79 because it was one of the first things I heard back when I started getting into Live Queen, and I fell in love with that show. It still remains, in my top favorite shows of all time that Queen has done. Not to be confused with the best, because there are some, earlier ones on that tour which I would put above it. But in terms of wanting to go and listen to something or just listen to it, from front to back, combined with the quality, I would pick Hammersmith. Least favorite. Oh, that's a tough one because I can think of a few right off the top of my head, but uh, I would probably say from a recent transfer I did on tapes, I would have to go with the second Brussels on the Works tour because I have never been so angry listening to a show because the new transfer it has a little bit of a better mix compared with the one that's on YouTube, and as I'm listening, I'm like, geez, I I was getting tortured listening to this. I had people in the call with me listening to it, and they kept messaging me, laughing at me, and just saying this sounds bad, or how do you think of this performance? sounds, and then they're like making fun of me. And I'm like, really? Do I have to? So I was miserable. Now, and I was doing that just because it was an upgrade. So, I mean, that's my least favorite at the moment because I'm still suffering from that gig. So, thank you. But yeah, thanks for those questions. And then we have from Lorenzo Levy, and it reads like this: To Greg from Lorenzo, is there a particular system of listening to all of Queen's concert recordings such that one won't tire of a certain tour or worst case scenario, Queen itself? Best wishes. Also, if Freddie Mercury were alive and touring in the 21st century, how would his live singing change relative to his 70s and 80s voice, in your opinion? Um, well, for the first part of that about listening to the Queen concerts, um, what I do is I don't tend to really get tired of a certain tour, and I mean that for all tours, no matter if it's a favorite or a least favorite. I don't really get tired per se of a tour, but if I were to say keep it fresh, for example, like you know, kind of varying it a bit, I like to do a mix of the decades that change each listening period. Like for example, if I'm in the mood to listen to like a 70s show, I will pick some random 70s show that I want to listen to. And then the next one would be not from that same tour or even really the same era. I would move to say the decade. So for example, if I wanted to listen to say New York 78 from the Jazz Tour, I'll listen to that. Then the next show I'll listen to won't be from that same era. I would probably move to like maybe the Game Tour or the Hot Space Tour or something. So I tend to mix it up by decade, and I usually put a difference of probably 2 to 3 tours if it's from the same decade. Like for example, if it's like from the Queen 1 era, if I'm listening to like Golders Green, I'm not gonna go right to like say Queen 2. I'll probably jump to like Opera or Races Tour or something like that, just so it's more different. So I'm skipping around a bit, and the same thing applies to if I transfer tapes or something. I'm not gonna unless people request it. I'm not gonna just sit through like a whole tour and then just take the tapes from each tour and go like that. I'm gonna skip around the decades and tours so I don't hear the same song or set list twice or something. So I keep it like that. Although I don't tend to get really tired of doing like one tour, but I tend to skip it around just in case something like that would happen. And then to the second part about how the live singing would be different in this century compared to earlier. Well, it's a lot of guesswork because I wouldn't know. I mean, the reason why his voice changed in the latter half of the '80s into the '90s was obviously because Freddie was ill, and then he changed his singing style partly because taking I wouldn't say lessons, but he got tips from Montserrat, and then also the thinner voice due to the illness caused all those changes. So uh, it would be hard to kind of determine what he would be at today if he were still alive because I assume, and this is just going off assumptions and guesswork, that if he didn't get ill, you know, he may still, I don't know, maybe take puffs off of a cigarette or still do really chesty singing. I'm not sure, but but if he continued to do like the really chesty stuff and smoke and do that really aggressive singing, maybe his voice would decline or something. But my best guess would be since Freddie was very street savvy with his singing, so I think he would change his singing because he knew he would know if something wasn't working out. Like I think he would adapt to voice changes very well. So that'd be my best guess on it. But I'm not a professor of that stuff, and I certainly was not inside Freddie's vocal cords at any point
of his life, so I couldn't ask them questions about, hey, are those nodes going to affect his voice in the '90s? I don't know. But my best guess is Freddie would adapt to whatever would happen with his voice from the '90s onwards. Um, but I wish he was still around and still singing, because I would love to hear him, in the current state of the music, not to start dissing current music, but I don't know. It's just like I long for like a Freddie Mercury style singer, with that phrasing. And I mean, like someone like Mark Martell is fantastic, but you know, I want the total package with someone like Freddie. Amazing singer, songwriter, musician, amazing voice. It's like, man, I wish Freddie was still alive. And so yeah, there's the two questions. Thank you. And then we have a user with a fairly long username. Um, Only asks one question. A guy who likes old stuff asks, how many instances are there in which Freddie tries to go for the C5 in Bo Rap, but does not hit the note, like Liverpool? Well, as far as I know, the only version of Bo Rap that he does attempt the high C but falls flat is the Liverpool version. Um, but maybe there's more out there. But there are some versions of Bo Rap, like on the Euro Hot Space Tour, where he will go for the die note on the A flat, like the general live phrasing he would do, but he would hold out the A flat for a little bit longer, like he was thinking of maybe going for it or maybe holding it out or something. But I mean, there's versions like I want to say like someone from like Vienna '82, one of the versions has it, and I think some like the UK versions, I think like Leeds, where he like holds out that note for like a fraction of a second longer and then goes to the lower phrasing. But that'd be the absolute closest to something like that. But in terms of going for the note and missing it or going flat, it would be the only one we have would be Liverpool, because the other two times he does attempt it, Newcastle and Cologne, he hits the note. So that's what it is for that. And then YouTube FM asks, who is your favorite member of Queen? Mine is Roger. Well, I love Roger, but my favorite member is the certain Queen member that likes to, sing lead a lot. And I have a hat that's kind of like a little tribute to him. So he's my favorite member. Thank you for that, though. Next user, Live Aid Knight asks, after all these years, do you still enjoy what you do for the Queen community? What is one show that you would recommend to new fans of Queen? And an obscure show for old fans? Well, that first question is a good question. Do I still enjoy what I do? Absolutely. But it's a little bit different now in comparison to what it used to be years ago. Because years ago, I had plenty of recordings to still go, put up on YouTube and everything. And now it's like the uploads are very, very sporadic because there's not much left to put up, in terms of the available recordings. So what I've been doing is obviously doing stuff like the vlog. Sometimes I do the debate stuff. And other times, I sit and, Skype or Mumble with other Queen fans and just transfer tapes and do live tape transfers and just shoot the shit and talk about Queen, because the best way to, enjoy, the band is also to converse with other fans as well. So, I love hearing other fans' views on songs and performances and albums, and it's a never-ending subject, and I absolutely love doing that. And yeah, I absolutely still love doing all the stuff I do for the Queen community, even though it's a little bit altered. I still highly enjoy it. And the second part of that about the shows, for new fans of Queen, if I'm restricted to just one show, just one show, just to give to a new fan, like here's live Queen. After thinking about that for a bit, I would pick Boston '76. Now, the reason I picked that show is obviously the quality is absolutely amazing. It is one of the absolute best audience tapes of the band. Um, and it's during that phase where they're still raw, and they have has all those great songs on it. Really no filler tracks at all. Um, and a lot of people love that era, like Night of the Opera. So I figured that'd be a relatively safe recording to give to people. So I would start with Boston '76. Now for old fans. Okay, so I take that would be that have been fans for decades, like way before me. Um, it all depends on if they heard this stuff before, because the Queen fans that were there from the beginning and 80s, you know, were there way before I even came into the picture. So they probably would know, more of the obscure, shows or something. But chances are, older fans would dig the earlier stuff more. That's just my perception that I seem to notice when I talk to fans, like at like the breakthrough events, that everybody is pointing into like the '70s era, like the early stuff, like the first few albums, like Queen 2 and Sheer Heart Attack and Not at the Opera to an extent, tend to get the most like votes. So if I were to give them a show, if they haven't heard Boston, I would still give Boston to them. But if I wanted to go even earlier than that, a show that I absolutely love to listen to would be from the very first tour. Quality wise, London, Golders Green, but stuff like Birmingham and Oxford and Glasgow are awesome shows. Very raw, hungry band, and it's just those recordings have a charm about them. So for older fans or more obscure stuff, I would actually throw something from the very first tour, or the Queen One tour, I should say. Something along those lines, like something from '73 or '74, just to say, hey, here we go. So I would do that for them. And the next person, Circle, wrote quite a bit on here, so I'm gonna have to probably take a drink for this. Running low here. Good thing I brought a bottle over there. But Circle asks, can, excuse me, can, can you talk a bit about the royal family and what the deal is with them? Also, what tapes do we know expect them to have? What other tapes do we know exist, like Providence '77 or Manchester '79, whether in position of the royal family or not? When you and then I was asked this, and I apologize if this sounds rambly, but this is what was. This is actually what I wrote on an upload I did on Queen Zone, so I'm quoted here. It says, earlier in the month, a few random users posted low-quality samples of two performances. One was The Fast Will Rock You, the other was Bohemian Rhapsody. At the time, the files were given a date of May 7th, 1978, Stafford, and all seemed to end. As the days passed, other comments popped up in private messages about these performances, and confusion started when different stories about the recordings turned up. After doing some detective work and cross-checking some information with the person who eventually sent me the most complete copy of the recording, the actual date of May 12th has been confirmed. And then it says, if I'm reading this correctly, there was a sample of Bohemian Rhapsody. If so, what's the deal with that? Well, what that was is to make a. I'll start with that second part there. To make a really long story short, I got sent these random strange messages on Queen Zone from people, and they were throwing these really low quality samples of performances that, as I say, I was sent a very low quality copy of The Fast Will Rock You and Bohemian Rhapsody. I didn't know where these came from because I was checking. stuff I had, and it wasn't matching up. And I was bombarded with messages about stuff like what is this? And then people that I knew were sending me messages about these samples. So from what I heard, stuff was getting sent all over the place, and it turned into a circus because like everybody had a different story. Nobody could. It was really 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 confusing, and I had no idea what was going on. And then finally, after time passed, we got answers on what these actually were, and then one of those users sent me the May 12th gig, and that's basically what happened. I had no idea what was going on because I just got slammed with a bunch of messages in Queen Zone. Like I had no idea, and it was looking back on it, it's pretty funny because, and then people asked me on my Facebook messages, "Hey, I got like stuff like I got this message from somebody, and what is this?" And I'm like, "I have no idea. It's like I don't got the answers." So I was confused. So what was sent to me was this really shitty MP3 encoded Fast Will Rock You, which turned out to be from the second Wembley show of '78 after detective work, and then a Bohemian Rhapsody performance, which came from the last London show, May 13th. So, I mean, it was a clusterfuck, but after a while we figured it out. It was pretty funny actually. But yeah, I mean, we got some great shows out of those, so I'm glad everybody enjoys those shows. And then the first part about the royal family, and about the tapes and stuff. I don't know much about the royal family apart from what has been posted on websites. I just know that they're hardcore Queen fans that traveled around the world, assumingly, to see the band. They were at the Paris show of '79. They were on the Crazy tour of '79, and they taped some of the shows. And then slowly they've been leaking out. So it's like I don't know much about them apart from like what's been told on certain websites. Like I wish I was in the royal family, and stuff, but unfortunately I'm not a psychic. I don't know what's been said or not, but all I know is that they're hardcore Queen fans that saw the band a bunch of times. And then what other tapes do we know exist? If they have them, well, if it's from the Crazy tour, most likely it's a royal family tape. But other shows are a bit more tricky because we don't know who taped these. As far as Province '77, whether it be the Races tour one or the News of the World tour one, I don't think that's a royal family tape. I know at least the News of the World tour has one or two sources of that. None have circulated. Hopefully it does. But it's like one of those things where I don't know the stories until like the tape gets posted, and then there's usually some backstory about like who did this, who taped it, and stuff. So I only know the answers as soon as they show up right in front of me, though. So I can't like dig into someone's mind and pry the answer out of them because that would be very very painful. But that's the best I know about those. But thank you for those questions. And then we get to somebody who's a fucking twat, and his name is Ethan Thompson Murray, who goes by the Sock Puppet alias account of EC Productions. And this guy has been a pain in my ass for years, but he was nice enough to send me some questions. And I'm going to read you exactly what he wrote and give you the answers one by one because he sent me over a dozen questions. Here's what he says. Question 1. Do you suffer from chest wig syndrome? Well, here's the thing. I kind of do. You know why? Because I got some hair on this chest right here. and occasionally it does kind of constrict the vocal cords and make me squawk like an angry bird. So I would say, yes, I do suffer from that. Question 2, do you like Rotten Freezer? Absolutely. I love playing that audio and that video and seeing the reactions that people display. So yeah, I do tend to like that freezer a lot. I also have locked people in that freezer when they don't behave. Question 3, what are people called from Newcastle? Really? Well, if you want the serious answer, it's Geordie, but that's in reference to a horrendous, erroneous error I made on the Crazy Tour debate where I said Newcastleanian. And, they like to take the piss out of me for that. But whatever. I'm American. I don't know shit about, other continents. So there you go. Question 4. Victim of Love versus Leather Jackets. Oh, the Elton albums. What's worse? Victim of Love. Leather Jackets, I can find at least a few great songs. Question 5. Who is this EC Productions fellow you speak of? He's a fucking twat, as I said earlier. Question 6. Do you whore yourself out for recordings? Again, taking things out of context that I said on the Crazy Tour debate, and as I said on the Crazy Tour debate, and I will repeat it again, I do not whore myself out for recordings. I stopped sucking dick to get them. So there you go. There's my answer to that. No longer. Question 7. Did you know that people from London are called Londonians? Oh, yeah, that's the old term. Londoners is, I think, the term now. I had to look that up. And then question 8. I like Oxford and Glasgow's Liar. Which has a better B4? Oh, both of those versions are great versions. I'd say the B4 is a little bit better at Oxford, but I think Liar is a little bit better at Glasgow in general. But the B4 is a little bit better on Oxford. And then question 9. What do you think about the live version of Sleeping on the Sidewalk? Oh, I really like it. It's a different take on the song. I think Freddie does a good job on it. He does it in his style. I have no problem with it. So I think he did fine on it. Now whether I think it's better than Brian is, is up for debate. But I think Freddie did totally fine. If I were to separate it completely and just judge it on its own merit, I think Freddie did a good job on that live version. So I like it. And then question 10. Is Saturday Night all right for fighting? Yes. Absolutely it is. And then question 11. Are you still standing? There's my response. Question 12. I heard you are suffering from an illness. Are you all right now? I'm very peachy, thank you. Question 13. Can you please say the alphabet? All right. If it's the musical alphabet, then it's A through G. But if you want to know like the actual alphabet, to humor you, I can say, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. Okay, there you go. Question 14. Did you know that Greg enjoys the shows on the Red Strikes Back tour? Yeah, I really enjoy the shows on the Red Strikes Back tour. And you're a fucking idiot for referencing that again. I tell you, this Ethan guy is a piece of crap, so watch out for him. He torments me on videos, and watch out for him on Discord and Facebook. And then question 15. Is it true that you wank over Another One Bites the Dust from Paris 84 with electronic drums and squealing? Abso-fucking-lutely I do. How great is it to hear that song on that tour? That high quality recording with those drums and the experimental vocals by Freddie. I mean, that's why Queen are one of the greatest progressive rock bands of all time, with performances like that. They deviate from the norm. So yeah, I don't deny it. Thank you. Now we get to something a little bit more sensible. King Mercury asks, what is your favorite live vocal flub? Um, my favorite one, the one I enjoy the most and laugh at. I would probably say it's a toss up between the body language, multiple notes on Tokorozawa, or the metal screw vocal disintegration on the Tokorozawa Champions. Those two just fight for the top for me. I love those two. It just makes me smile thinking about them and just playing them because they're some of the funniest cracks I've ever heard someone do on stage. It's awesome. And then Jacob Mann asks, "What's the best tail Toriate?" Um, well, out of the two full versions, Sapporo and Tokorozawa, the Sapporo version is much better. That is easily the best version of the song in full, and the best version in general, because when it was played earlier in '79 and '81, it was only played, Freddie doing like an improv part or a small section of the song, or the band doing a small section. So it's really hard to judge, but I would probably say Sapporo 82 in general, because it's full and Freddie does a really good effort on it. So I would go for that one. And then Jasmine Azul asks, "Hi Greg, do you have the unpublished demo Let's Make Love?" I don't. I know what you're talking about though. The only version that I know is on YouTube. It's about a minute long, but I don't have the full version or anything. But it'd be cool to hear it. But I just know of the 1 minute version. And then Mr. Johnson asks, "What is your favorite Queen song written by John Deacon?" That's a really good question, because I was pretty sure what I was going to say for my answer, as I was getting these questions prepared. But I have narrowed it down to two. One is 1 Year of Love. I think that's a really a good song at times, and it's very interesting, very progressive, and amazing. The other one is Spread Your Wings, which I find to be an incredible classic. I really love Spread Your Wings. I would probably say, out of all the songs John Deacon's written, that is my absolute favorite he's done. One of my all-time favorite Queen songs, but 1 Year of Love is not too far behind. So thanks. Let's see, Air Dave, or Dave, or Dave Mercury, or whatever name you go by. I'm trying to remember them all. I have a few questions that he asked me, and I will answer them all. First question is, it says, "Hi Greg, some questions. 1. Can you tell me some of Freddie's live C-sharp 5s? Well, absolutely, I can tell you some of those C-sharp 5s. There's some very raw ones he did at Live Aid on Hammer to Fall. Also, there is a very nice one at the Somebody to Love from the first Newcastle in the outro. And there's also a few, like the Hammersmith 79 in the outro where he goes for it, and I think it goes for like a C, but it ends up like he overshoots it to a C sharp, but that have been more of an accident than anything. But some of the best one he probably did live was the Somebody to Love C-sharp 5 on the first Newcastle in the outro, because it's clean sounding, and it's completely intentional, and Holly Kitty wants to get in on the action. So there's that. Then the second question is, was everything in playback on Freddie and Montserrat performances, or is just their voices? It's all playback, all lip synced and everything. But it's cool seeing the videos though. Question 3: will you upload the new sources of Crazy Tour old gigs? Oh, absolutely. They've all been transferred. I sent them off to somebody to track and to clean them up a little bit more. and absolutely they'll be uploaded. That guy on the street already has uploaded the new Glasgow on his channel, and it's really good. So compared to the old source, it's a lot better. So yes, I will definitely upload the new transfers of the Crazy Tour gigs. Question 4: rank the Sun City gig on a scale from 1 to 10. For the tour, it's probably like a 9, possibly a 10. That is an amazing show. Definitely one of my favorite shows in that entire era. Probably top 3 at most. The other ones I would probably put up there would probably be like the Stuttgart show or the second Tokyo from '85. Those are like those 3 shows are like the really really good shows. Sun City is at least top 3. And yeah, it's an awesome show. If there is a Works Tour show to go after, that's the one because it's soundboard. The bands sound really good. They sound inspired, and Freddie sounds fucking amazing considering the year. So Sun City gets high marks for me. I do love that show, legitimately. And then question 5 is, where can I find the complete filmed version of Third Tokyo '85? The best version, I think Simon Christensen, the big Danish Queen fan, uploaded it onto his YouTube. If not, I believe it's on Queen's Own. I'm not sure if Simon or Chief Mouse did something to it, but I want to say the best version of that show is on Queen's Own, and one of those 2 names did something with the show. So I believe you can find it on Queen's Own somewhere. And then thank you for the questions. Keith Stone asks me a few of these few questions here. He says, firstly, thank you for introducing me to the world of unofficial Queen live cards. You're very welcome. Do you have a top 3 Tie Your Mother Down live performances or top 3 non-Crazy Tour Now I'm Here live performances? Well, for Tie Your Mother Down, let's see. If I were to name 3 versions I absolutely dig and love, there's a lot of them, but but 3 that come off the top of my head would be the Champions video shoot of '77. The Liverpool '79 show has an amazing version. And then another one that, if I'm going to rank these properly, one that I would probably put up there would be, I want to say something like Glasgow '79 or it would be like in the News of the World or the Crazy Tour, one of those eras, because of the consistency of the song and just how great it sounded during those eras. And also maybe like 1 or 2 of the Strongest Magic Tour versions can probably get a shout out because they sound awesome as well. And then non-Crazy Tour Now I'm Here live performances. 3 that I can name that are absolutely top notch. There's one from London '78 that sounds absolutely amazing. It's from the second or the third night. One of those 2. It sounds really good. Stockholm and Copenhagen '78 are also top notch. And then there's some later Hot Space Tour versions from the European leg, like Castle that sound awesome. I love those. So those are just some ideas. And then he asks, about when's the News of the World Tour debate, and I'm uploading it in the next few days. So there you go. And then Max Headroom asks, why no second night Montreal 1981 bootleg? Because none has come up yet. We only have an audience tape of the first night. I wish there was a second night tape out there. Then we can compare them and kind of put the pieces of the puzzle together on what performances were used for the official releases. Even though we have a fairly good idea on what was used, but it'd be great to get a second night audience tape. And then and the next person is Ready Freddy, who wrote a bunch of things down, a lot of questions, like a dozen questions, and it goes into the next page. So to answer these, the first question is, you probably are already going to get this one. Have you seen the movie yet? I didn't, in fact, have seen the movie. I've seen it 3 times, and I absolutely loved it. Because second part of that, I love the movie. Going to that movie, I was aware they did take liberties with, historical facts and everything. But there's so much you can do for to cram 45 years of history into a 2.5 hour movie. It's definitely geared towards more of like a casual audience than a hardcore Queen fan or a historian. But I enjoyed the film a lot, and I definitely do recommend it. Because the music parts, whether they're recording or the live performance parts and the Live Aid scene are absolutely off the wall amazing. I love that, especially the Live Aid part. And then second part, or the second question is, what are your thoughts on the re-recording of Doing All Right with Tim Sapple? I was cool with it. I'm not too like overly, I would say, emotionally invested in the song too much. Like I love the song, don't get me wrong, but it's not something that I'd be like triggered if it was different than like the Queen version or something. But yeah, I did like the Tim Staffel version of it, and I didn't mind it. I thought it was actually pretty cool, to be honest. Question 3: Tie Mother Down as an opener or as a closer or as an encore? The song really works anywhere in the set, really, whether to open up a set or to end a main set or to start an encore. You can't go wrong with either. But if I were to pick one, it would be a toss up between opening a show and starting the encore. I think it works the best in one of those two. My favorite Queen opener is the Fast We Will Rock You. So I would probably, but Tie Mother Down is like a close second. So I would probably put Tie Mother Down, for me personally, to start the encore, but right behind it, open up the set. You can't really go wrong with either because it's such a great song and just the riff is just so iconic. You can't go wrong with putting it anywhere in the set, to be honest. And then question 4: do you prefer the Now I'm Here Dragon Attack reprise format from? Sorry, as I turn the pages here. Do I prefer that from 80 to 82, or do you prefer the Now I'm Here Dragon Attack format from 80-45? I prefer the ones from the early 80s. I would say like the crazy, the when Freddie started doing the improv stuff and started stretching it into those songs, like when he did it in the early 80s, I just really love that. I love how it goes in Now I'm Here. I love when he does an improv, and I love when it goes into Dragon Attack and the reprise. It just, it's all subjective, but it just feels right for some reason. I get the feeling of, yeah, it just sounds right, all these songs together. There's nothing wrong with the 84-85 format, but I don't know. There's something about the early 80s ones where you have the Dragon Attack right after the improv, and I don't know. It just, something about it make it works. So I definitely prefer that earlier format. But you can't go wrong with either. Question 5: the instrumental Inferno and Brighton Rock from the Jazz Tour, or the standalone guitar solo from the Crazy Tour onwards? Oh boy. Definitely the instrumental Inferno from the Jazz Tour. The Brighton Rocks from the Jazz Tour are absolutely off the wall amazing. No complaints. Nothing wrong with those guitar solos or anything, but I don't know. The instrumental infernos they're just so good. I just love hearing all the jams and the improvisations and just the creativity. So yeah, the Jazz Tour wins out on that one. And then question 6. It's late and Need Your Lovin' Tonight early on in the show before the medley or later on around Now I'm Here. It's all right for either way's fine, but I actually prefer Need Your Lovin' Tonight more early in the set. But now I'm sorry. Need Your Lovin' Tonight early on works better, but It's Late works better later in the set. So it's kind of like a mix of those two. Question 7. Do you think that they should have kept playing Lion throughout the Hot Space tour, like later Euro shows in North America and Japan? Oh, absolutely. Liar, everyone has their own take on it, but I loved the Liar performances from '82. It was a different take on the song, but I liked it. I think it was a very cool song on that tour. I honestly, they should have kept the song on the whole tour. I have no idea why they dropped it after Frankfurt. My guess is probably maybe because maybe the audiences, I don't know, but I wish Liar stayed on the set the whole tour, no matter what tour leg. Absolutely, Liar gets the nod of approval from me. And let's see, question 8. Do you think that they might have played the Hero at some of the later North American shows in '82, like in the gap between Hoffman Estates and Oakland, or possibly Inglewood? Possibly. There's a lot of gaps in the recordings, so we don't know like all the info. But there have been fan stories saying that the Hero was played early on, so possibly, maybe the Hero was played, and I would have liked to hear it because I think that's a very effective opener. And a lot better than the Rocket Prime Drive opener, which I haven't really. I can't really seem to get into that one for some reason. I just that's just me though. Question 9. Do you think they should have played Keep Passing the Open Windows live? I actually really haven't given it a thought about it being in the live environment. I just thought it was just an album track, like an album filler track. Don't get me wrong, I think it's actually quite a good song, but when I listen to it, I didn't get that vibe that they should have played it live. I just thought of it as as an album track, that's just for the album. So, yeah, I really didn't get they should play it live vibe. So for that, I would say, nah, there's other songs that they could have played live, and they did, like I Want to Break Free, Tear It Up, It's a Hard Life. Question 10. If Queen went on tour for The Miracle, what would be a more effective opener, Breakthrough or Princes of the Universe? I would probably say Princes of the Universe because it has that epic introduction. And actually what you could do is you could actually maybe combine those to make a really good opener for, a Miracle tour. Like have the introduction of Princes of the Universe come on, on the PA, and then, where you have Freddie singing it, and then, the Fighting to Survive part. And then it kicks right into, the Breakthrough part, where it starts with the da-da-da-da-da-da part. So you could probably work both ways on that one. And then, yeah, as you can see, I have a special guest. Holly really likes attention. But question 11. For a hypothetical Miracle tour, do you think that Was It All Worth It would have been a good main set closer after Bo Rap? Yeah, I would think so. Yeah, I think it would be. It has that like epic sort of feeling to it. And I think it would have been a great set closer. Great way to end the main set probably. Um, so yeah, I think it would. And then it ends with, those should be enough questions to keep you busy. Haha, have a good one, Greg. Well, absolutely, it kept me busy, and I did have a good one. Thank you. And then we have the next question from Christian uh, Enriquez, I think. I think that's how to pronounce the name. Sorry if I butchered it. What do you think about the singer Mark Martel? I think Mark Martel is fantastic. Really good voice. A singer that does really good justice to Freddie Mercury. He knows all the phrasings. He doesn't sound identical to Mercury, but he has that like voice that just fits the songs, if that makes sense. I do like Mark a lot. I saw the Queen Extravaganza band 2 times, once in 2012, the other in 2013, and he was absolutely phenomenal. And I think he's a great singer. And I'm glad they used his voice in the movie, on parts. So yeah, I have a very high opinion of Mark Martel, and I think he's great. Um, and then Master Chief asks, what are your opinions about Rami Malek's performance in Borat? I think Rami did a great job. Um, he was really good in that role, and I see why people want him to be nominated for an Oscar and stuff. I think he did a great job, and it's one thing to hear people say good things about an actor or a performance, but it's another thing to see it in person and see the movie and everything. I thought he did a phenomenal job and did a really good job, and he was great in that role, and I wish him all the best. I'll be definitely looking into some of his other works. And then Netta Barkai asks, where do you get your bootleg videos? I get all my stuff from Queen Zone. That's the website that has all the Queen recordings on there on the sharing and announce part, and that's where I get everything. And I download it and I archive it and put it in my hard drive, and then I start working on it in my iMovie and I put it on YouTube. So that's how that works. So Queen Zone is the answer to that. And then Andre Polkstonia asks, what is your best story of acquiring a rare tape? Well, this is an opportunity to tell a story about one of the shows that came out in the last year, or I should say earlier this year, and it involves London '78, and it's not the second night, the one where they sent me things in the private messages and it was a circus, but it was the third night, the last night, where a better version, got put on Queen Zone and then went into a whole different, topic. But my story for me is it involves the last London show. But before it happened, at that point, the a version of the show had come out where it was more complete than the previous version that circulated forever, but it was mono sound and it was all like weird, like the quality wasn't good, and there was just random versions floating around. There was like some versions had distortion, some had a watermark. I mean, it was a mess. But we had a more complete version of the show, but it was like it didn't sound like it was like the true version. It sounded like a version that got degraded and fucked with and then put on the public, web and stuff. So, but at that point it was like, well, it's something I never heard really. So because we only had the 78-minute version that started at Somebody to Love, and then it went through the White Man guitar solo, but the version that first surfaced on Queen Zone had, it was more complete. It had the songs after the guitar solo, but like the sound, like it was like distorted and like some had like a watermark. It was a mess. But I was going about my merry way. I went to a music store to get cables and stuff for my keyboard, and I went to grab a couple odds and ends, and I was looking for actually a CD for my dad. And unfortunately, it was sold out, and I wanted to get it there because it's easier to get something at a store and give it to somebody rather than go on Amazon and wait 5 days for it to ship. So I was looking at CDs and stuff, and I got to talking to people at that music store. We got into the subject about bands and Queen and just varying topics, and then they asked me what I like to do, in terms of hobbies. And I said, oh, I like listening to Queen. I like, I have a YouTube channel. I like to talk about the live performances, and I just told them all the stuff I like to do. And then we got into the subject of the tapes, and then what was brought up was stuff about London '78, and then my eyebrows raised up into my hair because, well, I was just dealing with that, and then the guy there was like, oh well, I got this, I got this version of a show, and because I was explaining to these guys about these London shows and what was going on, and he says, well, I have this version. Make a long story short, he got it 25 years ago or something and it was a long story about how it was given to him from somebody, and it was if I told the whole story, we'd be here for like 5 hours. But the short version is he basically got this version of the show from somebody, and he said he'd digitize it, and then after a while he gave it to me, and it actually turned out to be one of the better versions of the show. It had less issues with it, and after some TLC and fixing a couple things around, the best version of the show was published, and it was great. So I would say that was probably the best story of me getting like a rare tape, because it involved uncirculated stuff to an extent. The other one was Munich '82. That one's more of a lesser one because that already existed, but but I got a much better tape of that, and now it's listenable. So there's that. But in terms of like stuff that has like uncirculated stuff, I would say that London '78 show is the one. But yeah, that was a good question. And then Barbaro 12487, aka Thomas Seeger, because I was asked this on Reddit and the comment section. I was asked, do I know anything about Freddy's fantasy world of Rye? I don't know it full in and out, but I just know that it was, it was a magical fantasy world, and there are Queen songs that reference it. Lily of the Valley being one of them, and it sort of faded as time went on when they started to get out of that progressive kind of like medieval. I wouldn't say medieval evil sound, but it was out of that kind of like that art rock, progressive rock sound. But I know a little bit about it. Like if I were to look it up, I could probably stuff like that. But I don't know the ins and outs of it really. But it was just his fantasy world. And then let's see here, Mr. Bernov says, how is it like finding tapes and hearing the stories behind them? Ooh, I love hearing the stories behind tapes at Surface, because I like to read the whole history and how the fan got the gear into the venue, and love hearing the stories behind that. And also, do you think he hits the C5 at Glasgow? I knew that was gonna get brought up. It is still a bit hazy, but it sounds like he does. Well, here's the thing. That Glasgow C5 nonsense has been going on for 8, 9 years at this point. And it's getting to the point where it's starting to form gray hairs in my nose and gray hairs in my head. Hence me wearing these hats. And I thought the new Glasgow tape would have made it easier. Unfortunately, more fighting happened. So what I plan to do is down the road, I'm just going to make a video about the Glasgow C5, the history behind it, and kind of show the whole different versions of this rock section, like the varying tapes, and just put it all in one video and rant and rave about it. And yeah, that magical C5. Yeah, there is a C5 there, but it's not fucking Fred. That's all I'm gonna say. And people still fight over this fucking thing. I can't believe it. It's 8, 9 years and people still fight over a goddamn fucking note in a rock section on a song. And it's like, you people need to be going out and finding more recordings or helping me out or enjoying more stuff and be productive, not fighting over a goddamn fucking C5 that may or not be there in the rock section. Oh, you guys make me want to drink. But thank you for that question. Got me all riled up. And then Quinhoss says, was Freddie a religious person of any kind? When he was growing up, he did practice. He was a Zoroastrian, and he did practice it. But when he was famous, he really didn't practice it at all. But when at his funeral, he got buried in the traditional, Zoroastrian funeral. So he did. He was religious early on, but then wasn't so religious during his time with Queen. So I would say, in the sense of being in Queen and when he was famous, no, he was not religious. And then Christina Davis writes this. Hi there. Found you on the Queen Reddit sub, but figured I'd ask my question over here. It was posted on my... this was on my comments. Ever since the movie, I can't stop watching concerts, documentaries, interviews, and reading about Queen. With a better understanding of the actual events, I understand longtime fans' complaints about the movie, but I still really enjoyed it. Having watched and read a few bits now, I'm interested in what folks who knew Freddie are very familiar with him think of Rami's performance. I thought it was beautifully done, but the overarching feeling of sadness and seriousness has brought to his portrayal feels in conflict with a lot of what I've seen online. Freddie on video seems like a free spirit, someone who unabashedly embraced his life and was having a lot of fun. Will the people who knew him best say that the Rami version is more akin to who he was? I understand he was a complicated person, so the answer may be both. But curious if someone had to concisely sum him up. Would he fall more on the fun, having a great time, or the put a good face on it, but actually struggling emotionally most of the time side of the coin? Thanks so much for your videos. I'm loving them, and I'm left with sadness that I will never experience them in person. Kashi. Well, I wish I could tell you that I knew Freddie Mercury, but that would be a lie. So, because when he passed away, I was 1.5. But the best answer I can give to that would be when I was at the recent breakthrough in Detroit, the North American Queen Fan Convention. Freddie's personal assistant Peter Freestone was doing a question and answer, and he was giving a lot of questions about the movie. And Rami got brought up, and Peter Freestone was very complimentary of Rami and said that he did a great job, and he actually said that Rami was like Freddie in that sense, like he channeled his spirit. So it's like one of those things where I'll have to take his word for it, not because I don't believe him or anything, but obviously I didn't know Fred, but I would say that if Peter Freestone said something like that, I would just go with it and said, yeah, I'll do that. Um, going off what Peter Freestone said, Rami did portray Freddie Mercury, you know, like kind of like what the real Freddie Mercury would be like. So I would say yeah to that. Um, but yeah, I did enjoy the movie a lot. Um, and then the funny thing is, this user also asked more questions, but but uh, didn't want to switch to another Google account because she said few more questions from a different Google account. Too lazy to switch. So we'll continue. Um, the first question is, what happened to all his original art? Has it ever been for sale? Um, well, I know that the Holly Kitty wants to join in again, and stay on my lap some more, and she'll help me read these. Um, I think his original art was purchased by private collectors, as far as I know. I could be wrong on that, but I think you can see a lot of it on some of these like web pages, like Tumblr has a lot of his artwork up there. But I think a private collector purchased it. And then second question is, I love his shoes in the '80s concerts. It looks like they may have been Adidas Hercules. Has anyone ever sold a special edition of them to the public? Not the exact pair, but in the way that shoe companies would sometimes do a special order design. I'm not overly familiar with like if they were running like Freddie Mercury Adidas or anything, but I think it was either the Adidas Hercules or the Adidas Sambas were the ones Freddie wore. It was one of those two. Because I've seen some people split on which one it was. I'm not a shoe expert, so. But those two were often showed up on websites, whether it be Adidas Sambas or Adidas Hercules. But all I know is that I went on eBay and typed in Freddie Mercury Adidas, and then I saw shoes that looked just like the ones he wore, but they were selling it for like 150 pounds. I'm like, fucking hell. I mean, I could pay a bunch of bills with that instead of getting for shoes. So I didn't see any ads, but there may have been, but nothing really stood out for me in that respect. Question 3: is there a way to read his Jimmy H thesis? I actually haven't seen it, to be honest, so I think the best way for that would be maybe to ask Peter Freestone like on his blog, because he does these blogs and stuff. So he'll probably be in a better position for that particular question. And then lastly, follow up to question 1 about the art. Did he ever draw himself or Queen? Besides the logo, did he do anything else related to them? No, I haven't seen any pictures of him personally that he drew or Queen. I know the logo, but as far as I know, I didn't see anything else. It was other stuff. And then we have that guy in the street who's been another fucking thorn on my side for months, stalking me on Discord and Reddit and all that bullshit. And drinks so much Saskatchewan water, I think he's gonna drown. But he was in good enough health to ask me a bunch of questions, so I have to answer these. First one is, according to Queen Live CA, Brian sang the lead vocals on 39 on February 23rd. If this is true, how do you think he would have done compared to Freddie, and what would Freddie have done during the song since he wasn't singing? Well, if if that's true and Brian does sing 39, I think what Freddie would have done is I think he would probably would stay on stage with like a percussion instrument, tambourine maybe, and maybe sing the lower harmonies or backups, if that's true, because I can't see him just leaving the stage and just not doing anything. Um, but if it's not true, and it was probably Freddie singing it, so I wish there was a tape of that, out there so I could hear that. And then, what is the lowest note Freddie ever hit live? In terms of singing, some of the lowest ones I heard were some really good G2s on some of those impromptus from the Works tour. Uh, I believe there's one on the Sun City impromptu that's actually quite strong. So, so yeah, he has gotten some good G2s live. What concert prior to 9/13/73, Golders Green, would you like to see a release of? Oh, the Marquee Club. Gotta see that. And I would absolutely love to hear that. And then let's see, what songs from A Night at the Opera to Innuendo would have sounded better with Freddie's 1970 to 74 voice? And what songs from Queen 1 and Queen 2 would have sounded better if they were had been retaken anytime past 74? And yes, I would know Keep Yourself Alive was retaken. Okay, young Freddie. Like really young, youthful Freddie. If I were to take songs from other eras, for some reason, this will be kind of like a strange kind of a choice, but I always wanted to hear stuff from the later 70s albums, such as News of the World and Jazz. Some of those songs with the really youthful voice, like where it was really like clear, and really like youthful and sounding like for some reason I'm kind of thinking of songs like Spread Your Wings, for example, being sung a few years earlier. Um, I think he may have, although he wouldn't have the power that they went into the world. I think he would showcase maybe more like falsetto, because I think Freddie's falsetto tone was really 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 nice. Um, but I'm trying to think of songs from the 80s, because in the 80s stuff, he had that really thick, you know, beefy power voice. And I'm like, I can't imagine the songs like that being sung with the really light, youthful voice. Like, nothing really strikes to mind that would sound really good with that really light voice. Because it's just like the way he would phrase stuff, and like how much power he would put behind it. Like, I can't imagine Queen One Freddie singing A Kind of Magic at all. Like, it just doesn't. It wouldn't have made sense to me. It'd make more sense if like something from like another '70s album, Post Nodules, would sing something like that, because at least it'd be in the same decade. But the '80s Freddie voice, especially mid '80s, is a lot different than '70s Freddie. So, and I can't think of any songs off the top of my head that would sound good in that early '70s time frame if it was on those later albums. But but if we were to flip flop that and take songs that were on the first albums and put it into a later era, like if they would sound better, they would sound definitely more powerful. But I think at the expense of dynamics, so you wouldn't get the same, like, I don't know how to word it, but it wouldn't sound the same. Like, for example, as much as I like Freddie's power voice, like, the kind of magic voice, or like the Barcelona voice, where he sounds awesome and powerful and incredible range. I just don't think that powerful voice would fit the really early songs like White Queen. Like I just can't see him like because his 80s voice was not tender. It was not a tender voice. It was just powerful, strong balls to the wall. So it wouldn't sound right. Would he hit the notes? Yes, but it wouldn't have the same feeling to him. So, um, but the songs that don't require as much dynamics, I should say, like for example, like something like Keep Yourself Alive, I think would work really well later on because it doesn't require much shifting of tones and volume and sweetness. It's a rocker. It's a hard rocker, and it would be cool to hear like a more mature Freddie belting the hell out of that song, you know, in the studio, whether it be late '70s or '80s. Um, but it's like the funny thing is, like if you're gonna take the early songs and put it to a later Freddie, it'd be like, well, he'd hit the notes and everything, but it wouldn't sound the same because of the voice differences. But then if you flip flop it, you know, some of the songs wouldn't work because he'd sound too young or wouldn't have enough power or range to hit them. So I think it's one of those cases where certain songs would sound better in certain eras. Like, because Freddie's voice always was changing and evolving through his career. Like, his 71 voice is drastically different than 73, or 79 sounds a lot different than 77, or 82 sounds different than 80. So it all would depend. It's like song by song basis. Like, I think like all those songs needed a certain voice, and and if something was off, then it would be off. Um, and then let's see, what is Brian's best composition, Queen or solo career? Um, well, for a solo career, you know, I really like, you know, Resurrection. You know, that's one of my favorite songs he's done. And then in terms of Queen, you know, Save Me, Good Company are the first two that come to mind. I think those are amazing songs, and some really great songwriting work on that. And then, do you think Paul Rogers was a good fit for Queen? Um, well, for Paul Rogers, he is he is a fantastic singer. He's still going strong today. Amazing voice. Pretty much the definition of a blues rock singer, and I love his voice. And I think Bad Company and Free are great. You know, songs like Fire and Water, Feel Like Making Love, Bad Company, Rock and Roll Fantasy, All Right Now, legendary tunes. Love Paul Rodgers. In terms of him being with Queen, um, you know, it's like apples and oranges. Like Paul Rodgers is a totally different singer than Freddie Mercury. I think Paul Rodgers sounded really good on like the really hard rockin' songs, you know, for the most part. But he has such a different voice to Freddie that it's, you know, it's really hard. You know, it's really hard to compare because obviously Freddie, you know, is with Queen, and obviously, you know, he sang his songs the best out of the, you know, in terms of him fitting those songs compared with say Paul Rogers or Adam Lambert. But but I was cool with Paul Rodgers because he was being himself. He was singing the songs in his own style. He wasn't, you know, trying to copy Freddie. And and I think he did fine. Although what I'll say is, when he was with Queen, it sounded more like, oh, like 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 the Queen Paul Rodgers thing. It sounded like Paul was playing with Queen in the sense of it didn't really sound like totally like Queen, if that makes sense. Like for example, with Adam Lambert, because of his different style, the current incarnation of Queen Plus Adam Lambert, it's a little bit closer to classic Queen, like spirit wise, even though it's not nowhere near it compared with Paul Rodgers. Because with Paul Rodgers, it was like really bluesy hard rock with some Queen elements, like the harmonies and the guitar work and the drum work. But I think it. But I was cool with Paul Rogers, so I'm not slamming him at all. So I was cool with it, and I'm fine with anybody really. Um, and then the next one is: are there any other artists you would have liked to see collaborate with Queen? Um, one artist I would love to see some work with, apart from some work at the tribute concert and a couple one-off performances, was Queen doing some work with Elton John. Elton John's my favorite solo artist, my second favorite artist behind Queen, and I would have liked to see some songs that they worked on because I think Elton with with his piano playing and his style would have fit Queen really well, and I think they could have done a hell of a project together if they did an album. And I would have loved to see Queen plus Elton John because that would make me absolutely happy because it'd just be a great fit. And I love them both, so hopefully we'd get some great results. And then next question: what do you think of Roger Daltrey's performance of "I Want It All" at the tribute concert? Ooh. Um, well, it was energetic, it was passionate, and the effort was there. Um, Very rough in spots. I'll say that, but due to the concert and what the cause was, I'll let him off because it was very emotional, but it was very energetic. I will say that. Um, which live recordings do you think are highly underrated? I could probably name at least one or two from each tour, but ones that come to mind would be something like actually like Glasgow '79 from the Crazy Tour, because with the Crazy Tour most people will talk about like Hammersmith because of the quality, and then the Newcastles for obvious reasons, Freddie's best shows. And then Liverpool kind of gets talked about, but Glasgow tends to get left in the dust because of like the quality and the fact that it's missing four or five songs. But I think that's the most underrated show on the tour, and with the new recording out there, I think it'll get some more respect now, and it deserves it because it really is a great show. It's just one of those shows that it didn't get as much love as it should. So that's one I would say. Another one that's really underrated, at least to me, would be from the Hot Space tour from Europe. Because when people talk about that, they usually talk about the UK shows, whether it be Edinburgh or Milton Keynes or Leeds, which is fine because those shows are awesome, and I don't disagree with any of those shows being picked as like the best shows on the tour, and I think they're great. But some of those earlier ones from like late May are right in that ballpark, like almost as good or even just as good in spots like Munich. Kassel is really good. Hamburg is strong, and also the Vienna shows, especially the second Vienna show is awesome. That's probably my favorite show on that tour outside of the Edinburghs, because I don't know, it's just so energetic, and just like Freddie is just sounds awesome and having a ball on stage, and it's a great energetic show. I love it. So I think the Viennas are a little bit underrated, especially that second night is awesome. So those are some that come to mind. Another one I'll throw in there would be, I don't know, something like Frankfurt '84, because it's really rough sounding and it's incomplete, but Freddie sounds really good on it, like about the same level as Stuttgart. So that's one I'll throw out as sort of like a honorable mention. And then the last question is, being that you're from Michigan, what are your thoughts on Greta Van Fleet? Do you love them or hate them? And what are your thoughts on their new album? Well, for me, yes, Greta Van Fleet, aka the best Led Zeppelin tribute band out there. I'm not gonna bash them really. I think they have a cool sound, and but I'll be honest, I don't have the new album, although I've heard a few of their songs. Like they've come on the radio or I've seen them on YouTube. Like I've heard Safari's song, You're the One, When the Curtain Falls. And yes, Greta Van Fleet is it is very reminiscent of 70s classic rock, Zeppelin being the big one. Um, I think they are talented, but it's one of those things where if they if they don't break away from the derivative sound, they're kind of just gonna be pigeonholed as like as that sort of a group. What I think they should do is kind of, and I'm not saying get rid of the Zeppelin influence at all, but like make something that's more different instead of being directly almost derivative of Zeppelin. But I mean, I don't hate them, but I just think that they have talent, no doubt. But I think they can use those talents for more than just being a really Led Zeppelin influenced group and then putting that influence so uh, hard on those songs that it's just it make because if you look at if you look at the comments on those songs, it's always like, oh, is this Zeppelin, or this sounds like Zeppelin, or oh, they copied Zeppelin, and you can hear it that they're obviously heavily influenced by Zeppelin, even though I've read that one of the members, I think it was Josh, said that they're not that influenced, even though I disagree wholeheartedly with that. And even Robert Plant has said stuff about it. So, but yeah, I don't hate Greta Van Fleet. I think they actually are quite talented. It's just I wish their sound would evolve. I mean, because it's okay now because they're a new group, but I hope for their next for their next songs. Now I have to listen to the full album, but I hope they soon would break out of that Zeppelin clone-ish sound into more of like an original sound. But we'll just have to wait and see. And then next person is Harika uh, Tsiri, I think. Sorry if I butchered that. Bless you for this channel. Goldmine, where do you get all these? Queen Zone, that's where I get all my stuff from. And then the next person is Gabriella Costa. Is there any chance that we could listen to the other Crazy Tour shows? Well, if I had them, I would already put them up. But what we have is what we get. Glasgow, 2 Newcastles, Liverpool, Bristol Soundcheck of Crazy, and Hammersmith. But if I had the other shows, I would have shared them. But let's just hope there's generous tapers and people out there to put them out on Queen Zone or the public forums for us to listen to. Rupert Ledesma, I think. Are there any chances that the infamous Newcastle 79 shows will be properly remastered? This concert has been quite notorious because of Freddie's C5s and B flats in Somebody to Love and Bohemian Rhapsody. Thanks, Greg. Yep. I transferred slightly better versions of those shows not too long ago, and I sent them off to somebody to track and to clean up. So, yes, they don't know when they'll be posted, but they will be posted hopefully soon. And yes, we can hear these shows in a little bit better quality. Jack Kirby. Hey, Greg, nice video. By the way, what would you prefer, innuendo vocal era or the 80s? What do I prefer between the two? Well, I think they're both great. I love the 80s voice, as you well know. Innuendo. I would say, from a singing perspective, innuendo. Because of the way Freddie would phrase and just some of the performances are out of this world. I do love his 80s voice, no doubt. But if I were to pick between those two, like what I would prefer in terms of the singing, I would pick innuendo. But I will say that the voice is thicker and more powerful in the 80s, especially in that mid-80s time frame. And then Perot HD, what's your opinion on Borat, the movie? I love it. I love the movie. I thought it was very well done. Obviously, there's errors with the time frame. They had to change some things around, omit some things, and I was told in advance that that the historian part of me would be screaming if I didn't turn it off. But all in all, I enjoyed the movie. I thought it was very good, and I've seen it 3 times. I liked it a lot. And then BMB 445, regarding some of the negative comments about the Freddie Mercury movie, I can't help but to feel that a lot of negativity comes from the fact that the movie was too Hollywood-esque, in the sense that it oversimplified things and glossed over the intense gay parties, lifestyle, and subsequently AIDS. I like the movie, by the way. There's this belief that Americans are more prude and less likely to show these things as opposed to Europeans. What are your thoughts on this? Also, what do you think about a hypothetical British version of the film, so the one we have? Would it have been different with a more European approach? Thanks. Um. Well, I would say, it's like I wouldn't know what the movie would be like if it was more if it was Europeanized for a lack of a better term. Um, part of me would think, well, I want more in the movie, but I was reading things like Sacha Baron Cohen wanted things done a certain way, and he clashed, and it's like it kind of gets to the point where, do you really want to show that in the movie? Like, I was cool with what was in the movie. Like, I was fine with the partying and the more intimate scenes. I was cool with all that stuff. Um, but it's like, part of me, maybe not so much changing things around, but I would like a sequel, actually, because you could tell, the full story in 2 parts, and then for the sequel, and I was talking about this with some people a while back. For part 2, you can kick it off with like a 15-20 minute flashback of events that happened during the first movie, and you maybe have some scenes in there that weren't shown in the first movie, like a flashback, and then kick it off with like the end of the Live Aid stuff, and then start with Magic, and then Barcelona and everything, and then with Freddie's AIDS diagnosis and everything. You can do it. There is a way you can do it and make it effective and classy at the same time, and don't make it so ridiculous that it actually comes off wrong on screen. But I hope there's a sequel to this movie. But if the movie was done less Hollywood-esque, I think it would have been more true, for lack of a better word, in the sense of like the historian nature of it. But I don't think it would have maybe done as well at the box office, because I think they if because when Brian and Roger wanted the movie out, they had to sign a bunch of things over and sign it over to Hollywood, and they had to alter things. So, but yeah, there is this thing with at least some of the Americans I've known and talked to. Yeah, some things do tend to get a little bit less likely to show certain things, and then with Europe they tend to be more like liberal, for a lack of a better word for it. So I think if it was Europeanized in some respects, I think it would have been maybe a little bit more true. If not true, maybe a little bit more accurate, or it would seem more. But I don't know how that would go down in America. But I would see an alternative version or anything. So let's hope. And then Mark Beavy, why do you think that Freddie's voice sounded more manly live than in the studio? Well, a lot of it comes down to differences in live approach, nodules, and just delivering the songs differently. Like, for example, in the live environment, Freddie, would belt more in comparison to maybe, singing more soft. The tone would be deeper, obviously, because he'd be using more chest voice. you know, you'd be mixing harder, and you know when you wear and tear the voice on touring, it can get lower, and then when you do the rock and roll lifestyle, you know the offstage excess can affect it. Um, and then as I was, you know, getting these questions all prepared, and I was kind of like going through everything. I saw, you know, hopefully I get the name of the user right, but I think her name was like Susan or something, who wrote a bunch of great posts underneath, you know, some of these questions about like the vocal stuff. So, and it had something to do with like if Freddie was trained or something. But you know, when it comes down to that, it's one of those things where you know, there are some things I know about the voice, but there's a lot I don't know. And when it comes to that, I always ask, you know, people who know about these things, hey, why is this happening? Or why is this happening? Or what what's this? You know, there's nothing wrong with really asking questions, because if you don't know the answer, you know, that's bad. So if I don't know something, I'll try to get to the source on what the answer is so I can give that answer if someone asks me a question. Like about the whole difference there in the live versus studio, you know, there's differences, you know, with the shape of the voice and the way he was approaching the singing. But Freddie really didn't do a lot of the softer, you know, gentler vocal stylings live because of, you know, using a different part of his voice, you know, pulling chest a little bit harder than he should because it gave him the nodule problem initially. Uh, and then there was just a bunch of things that would wear on the voice. But generally, the difference why he sounded more manly was because he wasn't really using his softer voice, not as much dynamic. He was going more medium loud to loud. It was more of a belty style. So that'd be my best answer for that. But Susan gave a lot of really good in-depth answers on some of those vocal questions. So I look forward to those responses and more of her contributions. Um, Thank you. And then hopefully I get this name right. Kejarn of Portugalian. Man, I think I butchered that. I'm sorry. Question is, when was the last ever live performance of Death on Two Legs, including the full song as well as the intro only? The last full version we have on recording is the first Earl's Court show, but the last performance of that full version was the next night, the second night. And then after that, for the News of the World tour, Jazz tour, Crazy tour, Game tour, it was played in a medley. And then the final version of that medley version was second Sao Paulo of '81. And then the last time I did the intro was 1985, I believe Sydney. So there's that. And then Joe Elliott, if this is the Def Leppard singer, hi. But Joe Elliott asks, your top 10 live versions of Tie Mother Down, Spread Your Wings, Fat Bottom Girls, Ogre Battle, Now I'm Here, Tear It Up. Looking forward to future uploads. Well, 10 versions of Tie Mother Down that are very, very good, that I would recommend listening to. I'm just going to name 10 versions that are very good in no particular order. Glasgow 79, Newcastle 79, the first night, Liverpool 79, Champions video shoot of 77, Würzburg, I butchered that, Würzburg, I think, yeah, fuck it. That show from 82, from May 9th, is a really good one. Tokyo 85, the second night, is very, very good, very surprising. Leiden 86, the first night, is awesome. Second Night Light in 86 is amazing as well. And then Gothenburg 77 and Copenhagen 77 have really good versions as well. So there's 10 recommended versions for you right there. Spread Your Wings. The top 10. Well, those ones would be Second Newcastle 79. Then I would say Liverpool 79, Glasgow 79, First Newcastle 79, Hammersmith. So all 5 Crazy Tour versions. Copenhagen and Stockholm 78. Those 7 right there. And then some other great ones would be the second London show of 78 is really good. I really love that version. And then Philadelphia 77 is very good as well. And another one I really like, despite the really shitty quality, would be the first London show of 78. It's really good. Hopefully that show gets in better quality. And then Fat Bottom Girls, 10 live versions that are highly recommended to listen to. Some of these may surprise you. Wembley 80. Any of them are great, but I'll pick the first night because of the quality. Brussels 80, the second night. Newcastle 79, the first night. And then I would also say for number 4 here. Actually, I should go like that because my hands don't want to work right now. Number 4, Barcelona 79. The second night is really good. Landover 78, very good as well. The most shocking one, Japan 79, the first night, not the other ones. The first Tokyo is awesome. And then Munich 82 has a really good Fat Bottom Girls. And Vienna 82 is great. And then Oakland 80 is also awesome. Slight lyric flub, but the vocal is outstanding. And I don't know, to nominate number 10, we'll say something like Hartford 80. That's a good one. So there's some random versions for you right there. And then, little Holly wants to join again. But since you want to join, here you go. Here's Kitty. Here's the kitty. Aw, kitty. And let's see. Ogre Battle. The 10 live versions that are really good. Any of the 73 versions are awesome. And then I would recommend Rainbow 74 is great. And then there's some really good ones from the Races Tour, like Copenhagen. Copenhagen is awesome as well. And one that I found really enjoyable was when I was recently transferring it, would be something like Manchester 74. And then for Now I'm Here, pretty much any of the Crazy Tour versions. Copenhagen 78 is fantastic. Munich and Kassel 82 are very strong as well. Barcelona 86 is a very aggressive one. That's very good too. And if you like the slower, more bluesier versions, the Rainbow one is solid. Also, Cologne 74 is awesome too. And then for Tear It Up, the one really good Works Tour version that's really solid without mistakes really is Dublin 84. That's the one I'll recommend from that tour. And then other versions will be probably most likely restricted to Magic Tour. Like if this was double in '84, then I would probably put like Stockholm, uh, and then basically the first 7 Magic Tour versions. So from Stockholm through to Mannheim. So you got 8 there, and then second Munich has really good harmonies and is very good. Um, and then also first Vienna '86 is awesome too. But Magic Tour had really good versions of the song in general, so you can't go wrong with most of them. But there are some standout versions. And ends that with looking forward to future uploads. So absolutely, there will be more future uploads. And then Guilherme Gonzaga asks, "What are your thoughts about those concerts in South Africa? If that's restricted to like the performances and stuff, well, we got the one Sun City show, which is phenomenal. One of the best shows that they've done in the mid '80s, and a top 3 show at least for me on the Works tour. So that's awesome. And I know the history behind it, and like where like Freddie had a lot of vocal trouble early on that stretch of shows and had to cancel one of them. Uh, so I mean, imagine that show servicing. But as far as the performances, the one show we have is awesome. Now, in terms of like the political aspect of it, like what were my thoughts on it? For me, it's sort of conflicted because Queen were not a political band, and obviously they were anti-apartheid, so they just wanted to play, to reach the audiences and for the money and stuff. So I mean, it's one of those things where they defied the warnings, and they got blacklisted and stuff, and they got into some hot water. But it's one of those things where, on one hand, it was like goofy judgment, but then on the other hand, it's like, well, they don't believe all that bad stuff, and they just wanted to play music. So I mean, it's sort of a conflict, but in the end, I mean, at least they were playing to mixed races, and they were giving out free tickets, and so they did the intentions were there, the honorable intentions were there. So I can't be mad at the band for that. It's like at that time, I'm not an expert with all that stuff. Someone who was there following the band could probably give you a better answer on what they thought of the Sun City stuff. But for me, I was like, my stance on it was more of a neutral stance, like whatever. So, but hey, at least we got a great show on recording, so that's what matters to me. So there we go. And then next person is defining awesome. What would be your most wanted official releases? Well, I would wish every show was released. That's in my own utopia, but I would like to see a Hammersmith '79 official release, maybe bundled with something from Live Killers for the musicianship. And also, I would just like to see like shows from the '70s released like from each tour. Like from each era has its own release, because I want Queen to succeed, and I want them to be very, very successful, and I want more fans to join. Join the big Queen fandom. But so my most wanted official releases, I would love to see, like the Crazy Tour, like Hammersmith '79 get released, and then like Live Killers, like something from Live Killers, like Paris's or something from there, because the musicianship was off the charts, amazing. So there's my take on that. And then we have somebody that was, kind of a guest on the News of the World tour debate, who listened to us. And this is Sparta, who I enjoy reading his comments on, YouTube and the Discord. And he asked a bunch of questions, and I will answer them all. The first one is, weren't the B flat, fours, and bow rap minus tomorrow and Barnall as well as the first C5 and champions all falsetto in the studio? Yes, they were. They were in falsetto. They were not hitting falsetto in the live environment though, but in the studio, yes. 2. Do you think a second tape that contains the rest of the Inglewood concert exists? The guy who bought the Inglewood tape says it may have existed and been sold by the guy who was selling tapes. Not sure, but if there is, that'd be awesome. But who knows? But at least we have the first 2/3 of the show. And then question 3. Do you think the vocal problems on the jazz tour could have been avoided? I think they could have been reduced if it wasn't so hectic, like crammed with this touring schedule, and allowed more time between the album making of jazz and then the rehearsals and the tour. And then, of course, the partying and all that wear and tear. But that probably wouldn't have been avoided. But I think if there was more time between the tour beginning and the album being finished, I think Freddie would have sounded better, at least on the 78 leg. So, yeah. And then the second part, maybe if they started touring later instead of the same month they finished recording. Yeah, I agree with that. If they started in like mid-November, I think he would have been fine. Question 4. How good or bad would a Works Tour version of the dropped rehearsal song sound? Oh dear. White Man, that and the Prophet song, that I don't think would have worked too well on most nights. Although I would say on the best nights he may have, gotten away with it. But Sweet Lady, no, that would sound like shit. Because I'm thinking of the electronic drums too, so that would sound bad. Brighton Rock, rest of Brighton Rock, I think that would have been fine. As long as there's no electronic drums. Longer Great King Rat. I don't think it'll be vocally bad as long as Freddie sticks with his falsetto. But I'm just thinking about the fucking drums. Like, I just hope Roger didn't use those electronic drums on these songs. Otherwise, I would have been absolutely mortified. Play the Game. No, I don't see that working at all on that tour. The Fast Will Rock You, I think, would be okay as long as Freddie wasn't completely shot and the electronic drums were not on the song. Need Your Love Tonight, I think same thing. I think the bad nights would sound horrifically bad, but the good nights would be okay. Put Out the Fire, not really sure on that. I mean, if it was done in a medley or something, I think it would have been just meh. Las Palabras de Amor. I don't know why that would have been rehearsed for the Works Tour, but I don't think it would have been pulled off too well. Life is Real on the piano and guitar. If it's done like a ballad, like if it was just Freddie and Brian, acoustic, it may have worked, but I would dread to hear like the Vienna version or the London version. And then I'm in Love with My Car. As long as Roger stayed off those fucking electronic drums, it would have been fine. And then 5. If you had to add a maximum of 2 songs from the Crazy Tour Jazz Tour setlist that were dropped for the Game Tour, what would you choose? You choose Spread Your Wings and It's Late. Well, those would be 2 songs that would be high on my list. So I would agree with those songs, actually. But since you stole those, I would probably say Liar, because it was playing on the Crazy Tour. So Liar would be 1. I would love to hear a Game Tour version of Liar. And then if I were to pick another song, I would like to hear more of the Brighton Rock instrumental infernos, so they would keep that high musicianship. So that would be another one. But yeah, you can't go wrong with Spread Your Wings or It's Late. Those would have been great. Um, and then that's what it is. Oh yeah, this was 5. It was kind of running into the other username there. So thank you for those questions. And next we have Joseph Stubb, who asks quite a few questions. What is your favorite tour for the following songs? I'm Loving My Car, Death on Two Legs, Now I'm Here, 39, Love My Life. From Love My Car, News of the World Tour by far. Death on Two Legs, I would say it's a toss up between News of the World, Crazy Tour, and Game Tour. I would probably go with Game Tour just because of the ridiculousness on some of them. Now I'm Here, Crazy Tour, 39, Crazy Tour, and Love My Life. That's a hard one. I'm split between News of the World and Crazy Tour on that one. 2. What do you think of the raw mix of Under Pressure from the Greatest Hits 3 album? It's okay. Don't love it. Don't hate it. It's just there. 3. Will there ever be a source of Glasgow 79 that conclusively proves that Freddie didn't hit the C5? Thanks, Greg. Yeah, I thought there was one with the new version, but everyone still wants to fight, and then it turns into a dick measuring contest with I got better headphones, or I got better gear, or I lowered the frequencies, and it's like a bunch of cocks fighting about it. So maybe we need a soundboard. So that'd be fun. And then thanks. Balraw here, MJH asks, can you recommend 1 or 2 of the best concerts from each tour? A good balance between the audio quality and musical quality would be nice too. If so, the very best concert on the rough side. Otherwise, I'll take the second and third best in better shape. Yeah, I can recommend you some. London 73 would be great. Rainbow 74 for Queen 2. Sheer Heart Attack, Rainbow or the Cologne show or the last Tokyo night from 75. Opera Tour. Dundee 75 is really good. Boston 76 would be probably the one I would recommend. I'd also recommend Edinburgh 76, despite the shit quality. Performances are great. Races Tour, Copenhagen 77 is one I love. Gothenburg's also great. News of the World Tour 77, like Detroit, Inglewood, Stockholm, Copenhagen, any London shows. Jazz Tour, New York, Landover, Vancouver, Oakland. Those are some really awesome shows. Crazy Tour, any of them pretty much. Quality would be Hammersmith performances, Liverpool, Newcastle for the vocals. Game Tour, Oakland, Wembley, Brussels, Sao Paulo, Montreal's good. Hot Space, Edinburgh, Leeds, Milton Keynes, Hamburg, Munich, Vienna. Works Tour, Sun City, first Brussels, Stuttgart, Rock in Rio, Tokyo, specifically the second night, Live Aid, and then Magic Tour, Leiden shows, Brussels, Stockholm, Cologne, Paris is pretty good, Mannheim's good. There you go. There's some recommendations. I gave you a little bit more, but just want to help you out. And then Queen Fan 12 asks, what are some songs that you would like to let me repeat that. What are some songs you would have liked them to play live? Here's my list: Cool Cat, Dancer, Fight from the Inside, Dead on Time, Give Me the Prize, Princess of the Universe, I Go Crazy, Long Away, Keep Passing Open Windows, Man on the Prowl. Well, yeah, Long Away would have been great. That'd be a top one for me. I think Dancer actually would have sounded really good live, especially with the more rocked up sound. Dead on Time is a great one. You and I would have been a great one live. And and also just to throw it out there, as you said, Give Me the Prize would have been cool. Prince of the Universe, I think, would have been great. Open up a show actually. So yeah, there's some mix there. I need to drink a lot because we have a user here has been on the channel for quite a while, and he likes to write lots of questions. And I'm talking about Chopin 1995. He writes, "Okay, finally here are my questions for the next vlog. If you had to choose one recording from each tour, which you'd give advice or give to someone as being the best representation of each tour, which ones would you choose? Taking into consideration the quality of the tape, the completeness of the tape, the audience mood, band mood, vocal shape, backing vocals, set list, instrumentals." Fair enough. But then adds, for some tours it's very easy, but for others it can take a long time. Oh, I agree with that. So basically what we're going to be doing is we're going to be going into each tour, and I'll just pick one. I'm not going to cheat and say 2 or 3, but I'm going to just give you one recording from each tour as like a good start. Queen 1, I would say London 73. Queen 2, Rainbow. For Sheer Heart Attack, Tokyo 75, The Last Night. Opera Tour, Boston 76. Races Tour, Copenhagen 77. News of the World, that's a tough one. Copenhagen 78. Jazz Tour, New York, the second night. Crazy Tour, Hammersmith. Game Tour, Wembley, the first night. Hot Space, first Edinburgh. Works Tour, Sun City. And Magic Tour, second Leiden. So yeah, that's just a pick from each tour. Really good shows overall. And I was trying to limit it to just one so I didn't have to cheat. And then 2, your top 5 Queen songs written by Brian. Ooh. Oh, my 5 would be probably like Prophet's Song, Tie Your Mother Down, Keep Yourself Alive, Good Company, and Save Me. Those are 5 right off the top of my head, and 5 that I love to listen to a lot. So there you go. And then 3, what's your opinion on songs written together by Freddie and John? I'm especially interested in my favorites, Cool Cat and Rain Must Fall. Well, for me, those 2 songs, Cool Cat, I'm not actually the biggest fan of, but it is what it is. And Rain Must Fall is not one of my favorite tunes either. So yeah, between those 2 songs, I'm not exactly the biggest fans of those, unfortunately. And then 4, can we expect more Queen covers from you? And can it even be better than Body Language? Well, that fucking Body Language performance was a travesty, and I cannot believe that I was goaded into doing that, but it is what it is. Maybe I should get back out there and karaoke to see if I can, screw up some more Queen songs. But it is what it is. 5, can Queen be considered the best band in the world during the News of the World tour? Well, that's really hard to say, but what I will say is during that era, they were absolutely on fire. I mean, set lists were amazing. All the band members were in top form. I'm, it's really going to be hard to say, oh, they were the best, absolute best at that time in relation to all the other great music around. But what I can say is they were in a peak or right in that upper tier portion of their career. So it's definitely one of their best eras, at least. Um, 6. What do you think about the March Rainbow Show? Ooh, I love the March Rainbow Show. Definitely my preferred Rainbow Show between that and the November one. I love that recording. Overall, very good. The official release is fairly true in comparison to what it actually was. Not too much work was done on it. Overall, I really love it. 7. Liar. Second Newcastle versus Inglewood 77. Vocally, Newcastle slays, but musically, Inglewood. So it all depends on what part you're talking about. And then question 8. Top 3 versions of White Queen. Well, 3 that come to mind would be the March Rainbow, which is awesome. Copenhagen 77 is an amazing version as well. It's one of the best versions of the song. And also another version that I really really like would be something like Bristol 77. So there's one for you right there. So there's 3 versions. And then 9. Any favorite versions of Love of My Life? Well, there's a few that come to mind. Detroit 77, Inglewood 77, the second London of 78, Liverpool 79, Munich 82, Cologne 86. There's some versions for you right there. And then 10, Flash Gordon or Highlander. If you're, I take it that's probably the movie. Between the two, Highlander. And thank you. And now we have a question that I looked at this and I was like, this guy's fucking kidding me. But he insisted I answer it because he kept begging me on Discord to do it. So I shall. This deserves a drink, by the way. It's from the Discord legend, Crawling King Costanza. And I'm all for questions, like in terms of, the topics. It can be about anything, music, non-music. I'm cool with everything. But the one question he asked, and this is partly my fault because I said, it's cool on whatever you ask. But so I got to take the blame for this. But out of all the questions that, out of all the questions that he wanted to ask me and what was available, and out of all the topics, the one question he asks me is, and I quote, this is exactly what he wrote. I'm not bullshitting. Says, have you eaten bull testicles? And if so, did you like it? Well, this deserves a story because the short answer is not enough to satisfy. So, Crawling King probably wants a small story about this because I kind of told a story about it on a Discord voice chat. But for the GregsynthVlog, why not? So I'm going to tell the full story about this topic, bull testicles. Oh, where to start? Okay. It started in Breakthrough 2013. For this breakthrough, I traveled to Canada. All the previous breakthroughs I went to in 2010, 11, 12 were in the United States, Detroit and Atlanta times 2 respectively. For 2013, I traveled to Mississauga. We're outside Toronto. That's where the breakthrough was held, and there was a pre-breakthrough trip that happened the day before the actual convention, and there were two. One was going to downtown Toronto, and the other one was going to Niagara Falls, Canada. And I decided to go on one of the pre-trips. It was the Niagara Falls one. Now I've been to Niagara Falls once before. Before that, it might have been about '96 or '97. Went there with my family and my grandparents, and stayed at the Super 8 motel. Had fun with like all the attractions there. See the falls. It was a really fun. It was a really fun trip. And so this is my second time going to Niagara Falls, and so I go there. Oh, it's fun. I recognize all the structures. I still see all the same stuff I saw, 16, 17 years before. Um, it took back, it took me back to all those memories. It was great. It was really fun there. I saw the falls again. I loved hearing all the Canadian accents. Everyone asked me, "Are you from Detroit? Are you from Michigan?" Yeah, 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 yeah. Make fun of the Michigan accent. But so 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 we're there, and where the bull testicles story starts is before we went to see the falls and to go into those like roadside attractions. Like there was like a fun house and a bunch of vendors and a haunted house and restaurants. It was a really fun little area there. But before we did that, we stopped at this little restaurant, and it was like one of those restaurants where it had a variety of like food and stuff. And we go. I go there. We're in a small group. I was in a group of about 6 or 7 people, and seeing this stuff, I wanted to try something new because they had a bunch of stuff that I was used to eating back in Michigan. They had a lot of like meat stuff, burger, fry, stuff like that, seafood, steak, all that stuff. So I'm looking on the menu, and what struck me was, and they showed pictures of everything right by the sides there in a little square. I saw that it had prairie oysters written on the menu, and it looked really good in the photo. It looked like little like it looked like something really good, and I gave a description of tasty meat and breaded, and I'm like, it looked good. It's like I'm gonna try these prairie oysters. It was on the appetizers menu, and then my full course meal I ended up getting like a burger and fries, and I had a couple drinks. So I eat the prairie oysters, and it tasted really good, and I'm enjoying it. And then as I'm eating these, some of the people at my table were looking at me with like a raised eyebrow and like fighting back laughter, like they were smirking at me. I was like, What's funny?" I asked them what was funny, and I was like, "Oh, nothing. I'll tell you later." It was the thing. I was like, "Oh, whatever." So I'm eating all this stuff. It tasted great. Loved it. Then we go to the falls, and we have some fun there. We stayed out for another couple hours. Then when it was getting time, going towards the evening, we went right back to the hotel in Mississauga, and I caught up with some of the people at the hotel who were sitting at the table I was at, and they said, "Hey, about the things you were eating today." I was like, "Yes." It goes, "You know those prairie oysters?" And I was like, "Yes." It goes, "Do you know what those are?" And I said, "No, this is the first time I had it. They looked like little breaded, you know, meat chunks or chicken or something. I didn't know." So I said, so then they started laughing at me, and they were like, "You better go take a look what prairie oysters are." I said, "Okay." So then I head up to my hotel room, and I pull out my MacBook, you know, the old laptop that unfortunately was ceased to work a while back, but I got the been using the MacBook Pro for a while. So I get on my old MacBook, and I type in prairie oysters, and then I get all these random links, but like pictures of what they were, and then and then the Wikipedia page comes up and it said like Rocky Mountain oysters. And I'm like, okay, and it had prairie oysters with bold words. I'm like, okay, this is what it is. So I click on it. And as I'm reading the description of what these are, I become aware of the fact why they were laughing at me. I was eating balls from cows, bulls. I was eating bull testicles. I had balls in my mouth, basically. And I'm like, I felt like the biggest jackass ever. And I didn't know what to think. It was like, what am I supposed to do? Tell them, oh, I ate bull testicles or something? And it's like, and here's the sad part. I enjoyed it. So it was like, yeah, did you ever had balls in your mouth? Yeah, I loved them. Yeah, I ate bull testicles. Yeah, that's real manly. So yeah, that's basically, the story. And there's a part two to that. That has nothing to do with the Niagara Falls, but has to deal with the oysters and Call of Duty. Because, I don't know if it's known on the channel here, but, I like to play Call of Duty a lot. Recently got Black Ops 4. And, you know how toxic the online gaming community is, with all the voice chats, and it's like everyone can say all this stuff, when they're behind a keyboard or behind a screen that they probably would not say in real life face to face. So there was one match I was in a while back, and I was on Black Ops 4. I was playing as Torque, one of the specialists in Black Ops 4, and I was putting up barbed wire and putting up a barricade and just like camping somewhere, camping with an LMG, which is apparently something that people aren't happy about, because when I started doing that and I started getting kills behind a barricade, one guy had a problem, was like using very offensive language towards me that I really should not repeat, on this vlog. A bunch of four-letter words and some ethnic slurs that I really shouldn't say. That's all I will say about that. And and here's the thing, I when it comes to this online games, I don't really get loud or upset really. I just shake it off and laugh it off and move on, because what's the point? It's a game. I don't take it too seriously. But it came down to I don't know. I said something to the effect of, yeah, I like to camp with Torque. What's wrong with that? And the guy's all pissed off, and then it says something to the effect of like, I bet you love cocks and balls in your mouth. And then I remembered the prairie oysters. And it was like, you know what, you're right. I love them. I love balls in my mouth. I had bull testicles a few years ago. And then apparently I must have said the magic word, because one or two other people that weren't him started laughing, and then the one guy that was mad at me left the game. So apparently, to win confrontations on Call of Duty, you have to admit you eat bull testicles. So there you go. That's what I learned. So yes, I have eaten bull testicles, and yes, I absolutely loved it, and I would do it again, in moderation, of course. So thank you, Crawling King, for that lovely question, and hopefully that answer entertained you. Let me get to the next person. Freddie is the champion. Question 1. Are the rumors true that you like 1 second? Oh yeah, I absolutely love that. Question 2. Why is it that you can't handle alcohol? Well, here's the thing. I don't have practice. Really, I don't drink all that much, and I'm just sensitive to it. I'm a lighty, so fuck off. That's why I prefer drinking Mountain Dew, because at least it doesn't cause me to slur my speech and act goofy, really. Question 3. What do you think about the two Fantastic Beasts films? Well, I'm seeing the second one in the very near future. The first one I loved, so I would love to see the second one. Question 4. Do you agree with me that Jupiter is a weird name for a female cat? No, I think it's actually pretty cool, actually. So if you caught their cameo appearances early on in the video here, there you go. And then 5. What name do you prefer? Big Gay Greg, Gregorina, or Girly Greg? Well, neither of those names are really my absolute favorites to pick. I think Big Gay Greg's the funniest one. Gregorina has that Italian kind of a sound, so that's probably the one I'll tolerate the most. um, 6. Who is it? That's a great Michael Jackson song. 7. What is your favorite scene of the Borat movie? Favorite scene. I really loved when they were making Night at the Opera, and you know they were getting into a fight over making the songs and choosing the songs for the single, and and then you got Freddie going, Roger, there's only room in the band for one hysterical queen. That was one of my favorite scenes. Another one is I love the Live Aid scene was amazing, and I love the scene where when they were like making in the early '80s when they were making Another One Bites the Dust and We Will Rock You. It's like Freddie comes in all like drunk and like and stuff. That always put a smile on my face. But yeah, there was a few scenes in there that I absolutely loved. I would probably say my favorite scene is the Live Aid stuff. I think that was so well executed and awesome. Question 8. Can you say the German word for the rubber duck? uh, Quichen or whatever. Yeah, Quichen or whatever. I made a good attempt. 9. Is this the Krusty Krab? No, this is Patrick. 10. Did you know that Queen played Fat Bomb Girls on their U.S. tour in '74? Actually, no, I really didn't. But I'm looking for recordings, so maybe you can help me out. Question 11. Who will win the Game of Thrones, in your opinion? Ooh, that's a good one. I want to say Jon Snow. There's something about Jon Snow. I think he'll come out on top. Although, if not him, if I were to pick a second place person, I would say Tyrion. One of those two. But for some reason, I'm leaning towards Jon Snow. Question 12. Do you like Monopoly? Oh, absolutely. I love Monopoly. I grew up playing that game. I think it's very fun. It can get very long and ridiculous. And community chest. And free parking and chance and go to jail. Love that game. Do you like 10cc? No, not really. 14. Do you like Doing All Right with Freddie on lead vocals or for the version with Roger Taylor and Tim Staffel? They're both good. As I said earlier on the vlog, I like the song, but it's not something I'm like too emotionally invested in when it comes to like the versions. I do think the newer one, the Tim Staffel one, it was really good. I also like the Freddie one, so it's actually pretty close. I'm more used to the Freddie version, obviously, but I don't mind the Tim Staffel version at all. And even the really really early version, before Queen is cool too. So it's a song that all those versions, whether it be the earliest one, the Queen version, or the movie version, they're all good for me. 15. Do you enjoy getting hit with a shovel? Oh yeah, it cures my headache. And I also love getting stabbed with an axe and hit with a broken bottle and hit with a sword too. So that's all good. And then 16. Why do you have a crush on Hulk Hogan? Well, because he's muscular and tan and strong and tall, and he has a mustache and wears a bandana well, and he does that awesome leg drop. That's why. And then the workout videos, the cream of the crop too. Thank you for those interesting questions. Gaming Head Jam. Do you collect vinyl? Not really. I have a couple vinyl records, like a couple Elton John records and stuff, but I don't really like collect it. It's just it just finds its way to me for some reason, but I don't really collect it. I'm also, if I collect something, it's audience recordings and bootlegs and stuff. And then Lawrence Santos asked a few questions. One, which is the worst version of Hammer to Fall? Oh, that's a toss-up between a few versions. One that just stands out, which is just bad, is probably, I want to say, the first Vienna of '84 is just really painful. So I would probably say that's the worst version. If not, it's top three worst. The second question: do you like a 1 minute 55? Another timestamp. So yeah, I guess I do. Question three: worst version of Who Wants to Live Forever? The worst one. Uh, I would probably say something like, well, the Madrid version's pretty rough. Uh, and then I would probably say something like there's no version that's like absolutely terrible and awful, but Madrid is one of the more rough versions of the song. And then Marbella is also pretty rough too. Worst version of Is This the World We Created? There's no super horrible version, but there's some really rough ones later in '84, like Vienna, Second Brussels, where you have a harsh tone and forcing notes, and it's not the best sounding versions to hear, but it's not like the worst performances like on the show or anything. Five, best and worst action this day. Well, some of the worst ones would be like Dramen and Second Zurich '82. Best would be like Hamburg. Uh, Würzburg's great. Um, and then Castle's really great too. So I mean, there's some really good ones there. Best ever Sheer Heart Attack. Very consistent song. Some really good ones. Crazy Tour has great ones. Frankfurt '80's a fantastic version. And even some of the ones like on the Hot Space Tour where they play the song early in the set as the second song are really cool too. Like Castle. That's a good one. Best ever Stone Cold Crazy. Vocally it would be Houston, '77. Band performance and tightness, probably something from like the Sheer Heart Attack tour or the Opera tour before the song got so fast that sometimes they trip up on stuff or they can't keep up. Um, I like the Rainbow version a lot. Um, so I mean, and Cologne's a good version too. Um, and see, eight. Do you enjoy 613 as much as I do? Probably not, but then again, with these timestamps, you don't know what you're getting yourself into, so it may depend on the day. And then question 9: do you imagine Queen performing another Elton song? Performing other Elton songs? Let's see, because I know they did Saturday Night Sorry for Fighting. For Queen, I think I would love to. I could probably see him doing maybe another one. Uh, maybe something like another one of the '70s rockers. Um, for some reason, I could see maybe like Crocodile Rock, maybe, or Pinball Wizard or something. I think that'd be actually pretty cool. But yeah, there we go. And then the very last question comes from Supercalifriggin Mercury. On the 40th anniversary of Live Killers, should we go to Dylan's? I heard they have some new food. Oh yeah, we'll go to Dylan's. I would love to eat some salad mixed in with a burger. Maybe some chicken wings to go along with that. Maybe some special sauce. And maybe some peppers to go on top of it. So yeah, we'll check out that new food too. Maybe it's really good. And there we go. There's the questions. What a long vlog. Definitely the longest vlog I've done. I'll nurse my vocal cords later. It's been a real pleasure doing this. And before I leave, thank you for sitting through this super long video, if you managed to do that. Thank you for all the questions. Shout out to Mr. Peter Wiley for being generous enough to send me his tape collection so I can go through that and find upgrades. It's been much appreciated, and you've made some gigs much more enjoyable with your help. Thanks to all the Discord people for their contributions, and thanks to the folks on the Reddit, especially that guy on the street for his promotions. Thanks to the Facebook group, for all the comedy, and so yeah, thanks for everything, and I'm looking forward to more comments, and soon I will announce the next GregsynthVlog date. The News of the World Tour debate will be out very, very soon. And hopefully the blooper videos will be out soon as well, because I don't want that getting all blocked and stuff. So I'll see you all later.